I'm going to call tonight's meeting to order. Roll call. We have roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Here.
Mayor Matsumoto Wright.
Here.
Councilmember Murray.
Present.
Councilmember Ryan.
Here.
Councilmember Page.
Here.
Councilmember Sonmore.
Here.
Councilmember Woodard.
Present.
That concludes roll call.
Thank you so much. So next will be public comments. Do we have any public comments?
All written comment has been submitted to council, and we do have one person signed up to speak online. So Adam, you'll have 5 minutes.
Hello, I can't hear anybody. Can you guys? Okay. So I don't want to repeat myself again too much, so I'll just try to keep this short for once. First, I really do hope you've been thinking about the questions I've been asking you over the past several weeks. Second, as I'm sure or hope you've seen, a new article has come out about how in Auburn and other towns, Flock provided data directly to federal agencies despite the wishes of those towns. So you just need to understand that this isn't an accident. This is the purpose of Flock. It's yet another data point in a long string of them. A potential oversight committee won't be able to stop them from harming people. You've essentially made a deal with the mob and are now trying to instruct them, but you better do as we say and not hurt us. Like any mobsters, they're laughing at the very idea of this, and they're 100% going to do whatever they want. And they, as we've just seen, they already are. So I just want to say you have a one-time chance to get out of this contract by not installing the cameras. And I'm just asking you to do the right thing and make the pause permanent. Thanks.
That concludes public comment.
Thank you. Why this is not coming up. So next is the presentation of our federal legislative agenda by the Johnston Group. And so it'll be with our Deputy City Manager, Carolyn Hope, and our federal legislative lobbyist, Jake Johnston. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem, council members, good to be with you again this evening. I don't have a formal presentation to share, but I'd like to do kind of an oral report in terms of where we're at with some of our federal initiatives right now, try to explain some of the things that might be happening in Washington, D.C., or at least not be able to answer the questions that you have for me about the chaos that's happening there. And then really just want to take questions from you in terms of if you have questions about what's happening in DC right now, or as we turn the corner into next year, kind of what do we think is going to continue? What do we think is happening right now? And where should we be focused in ways that we may not be in the moment? And with that, if I can just take a few minutes and give you kind of an update on where we're at right now. So believe it or not, despite the chaos that encompasses a lot of our federal relations agenda, we have progress to report on kind of all of our issues. So I'm going to start in kind of reverse order here. But the first is that the city of Mountlake Terrace continues to be the leader in the state of Washington on changing criteria at the federal level for transportation spending. And just as a quick reminder, we call this the medium-sized city set-aside because we stink at branding. But what the idea is that we want to make sure that small and medium-sized cities have access to federal discretionary grant programs. We've been working on this for a long time. And prior to 2021, we had focused our efforts on what was known as the BUILD program or the RAISE program. And in 21, thanks to this city's efforts, we actually changed the designation criteria in that program so that half of all awards starting in 2021 went to communities below 200,000 in population size. So prior to 2021, no city below 100,000 had received a RAISE grant award in the state of Washington. Since that time, we've had 12. They include Shoreline, they include Woodinville, they include Bothell, they include Lakewood, this is now a viable opportunity for us to look at. So we are not kind of satisfied with that result. We want that same criteria to extend to every single discretionary grant program under the auspices of the Federal Department of Transportation and the Department of Housing and Urban Development. If there are federal competitive grant programs designed to help cities solve problems, we want to make sure we've got a fair swing at them. So where are we at? The bill is up for reauthorization next year. So this year in 25, there's been a series of oversight hearings, there's been discussion drafts, there's been a lot of work being done to try to figure out where the priorities are in this bill. Historically, the transportation bill has been a relatively bipartisan bill. It comes out of the House, roughly a 300 to 100 vote type thing, about the same ratio in the Senate. I don't know if we can predict that in the current Congress and the current administration for next year, but that's at least the historical precedent that we're walking into. So earlier this year, Mountlake, Terrace, and Bothell and Shoreline kind of coordinated a statewide effort to send a letter to the entire delegation that listed what our priorities were for that bill and kind of what we thought we wanted to see out of it. And 38 cities in the state of Washington signed it with a week to put that together. After the letter was done, we heard from other communities like Walla Walla and Moses Lake that weren't able to get council approval to sign the letter on the deadline that we had to put it in. So we've got 40 cities right now in every congressional district in the state of Washington ready to engage on this issue and is working on it as part of their legislative affairs for next year. But that's not the end of the story. We have, in the state of Washington, we have the top 2 Democrats in both the House and the Senate on the committee that's going to be writing this bill. We've got Rick Larson in the House, who's the ranking member of the Transportation Committee, and we've got Senator Cantwell in the Senate, who's the ranking member of the Senate Commerce Committee, which has primary jurisdiction over this bill. They both support our goals in this process, as do every other member of the state delegation at this point on a bipartisan basis. We have Doc Hastings. We have Doc Hastings, my God, Dan Newhouse. We have Michael Baumgartner. We have every single member of the Democratic caucus from the state of Washington on our side. And that's great. And that's due to the city's leadership and work on this. However, that's just Washington state. We have a lot of other states that we still have to work on to try to bring them over to our point of view on this. But we're going to take a swing next year at getting these provisions into the bill and continuing to get greater access to these funds. So hold that good news and hang on to it because you're going to need it. We also this year, as an update on our federal funding request, I think as you know, council directed us to put in an earmark application for congressional funding for the community center project, which is basically a new roof on the library building and an expansion of the function of that building into a community space. And it's mostly good news. That project was selected as one of Congresswoman Del Bene's primary projects. She has a finite number of projects that she can put forward for funding. She requested our full amount of $2.5 million from the committee. And that was in the initial version of the bill that passed through the Appropriations Subcommittee. However, we are currently in the bill for $850,000. Because every Democratic-led project on the House side got cut by 2/3, just as a show of power. There's no other explanation or thing for it. It's also never been done before, and I realize that it's very sophomoric to tell you that we're in unprecedented times with our federal relations strategy, but you'll be hearing a version of that from me a lot as we continue in our work. So good news is it's a great project. It is supported by your delegation, and we've got a little bit of funding in the bill. The problem is it's not enough funding to complete the job. So we will have to make a decision about, do we bring this project back next year or not to fund the balance of the project, or are there other priorities that we want to continue to put forward? I think it's important to mention at this time that I don't think the cast of characters has changed for next year. I think that our realistic expectation should be a similar outcome if we pursue the strategy again. But we do have support, and that's just kind of where things stand in the America we live in today. I'll keep pushing forward, then we take questions on any of these at the end. And then the other one, which I think is highly disappointing to all of us at the city, is that once again, we resubmitted our raise grant this year, and once again, we were not selected for funding. I'm sure you've been briefed on this already, but the city, led by Carolyn and the team, we did an exit interview with USDOT, what was that, about 2 months ago, give or take a little bit? And then we got very clear criteria for kind of where we fell short in that grant application and where we were strong. And the good news is that we made it through all of the scoring criteria successfully. We made it to the point where our project was submitted to the Secretary's desk for final approval. And where we fell short was on something called basically the benefit cost analysis, which is the economic analysis of the grant to make sure that if we spend this federal money, that there will be a positive economic outcome on the end. And we did not succeed on that portion of our grant application. So I think incredulously, is that the right adjective to use? We requested a second briefing from USDOT with the economics team, which we were told would be very hard to get, and then we got it about 30 days later. So we had a formal debrief with the actual economics analysis team at USDOT that evaluated these grant applications and gave us much better feedback on this. And one of the things that we learned was that they simply didn't believe us. They didn't believe that the growth allocations that we were attesting for downtown Mountlake Terrace were possible or plausible. And I'm oversimplifying the direct analysis they gave us, but they basically did not believe that we were going to grow like we intend to. And that is the challenge if the city does decide to resubmit the grant next year, is we're gonna have to write the BCA in such a way that it's ironclad in terms of its data and its presentation criteria. There are other things we can do to improve as well, but fundamentally that's the fulcrum point by which we failed this time around. Carolyn, do you have anything to add to that?
I was just going to add that that was some feedback we got the last time as well, and we were sure to, Jake and I worked on language that talked about the process in Washington. We shared the Snohomish County ordinance that shows the targets were assigned and that we have to do comprehensive planning for links to the comp plan. And I'm not sure what else we could do, really. So.
Didn't we lose by that in the past?
Yeah, it's been the same issue 2 years in a row.
So what are we going to do different if it's the same group and it's the same misses? So how do we get over that hurdle?
Great question, Councilmember. We were given some very clear guidelines from the economic analysis team at USDOT. I think we were given also, I don't know, and Carolyn, please jump in if you want to correct what I'm about to say. I think that grants like this get socialized a little bit within the agency, and we were actively encouraged to resubmit the grant with a better kind of explanation for the numbers and the growth projections. And then I think that assuming that there's a modest amount of turnover in that agency, and that's a big assumption in this administration, I think that we continue to make this project better known within it. And the more time we spend explaining it, the higher our chances are.
Well, I guess this question I have is more for my benefit because I don't know the history enough. But, our 20-year comp plan, and our growth plan has been approved by those who said we need to put that in place. So when we're in the room talking to the people who say that this isn't accurate, is there any reason why those who within the state in those government agencies, and if I'm off target, just say so, but those government agencies that have approved our plans and says that it looks feasible, why aren't they in the room with us also? Because that's our credibility point, isn't it? Or does it not work that way?
I'm looking through my notes on our debrief call from the economics team right here, and I think we have very clear guidelines on how to resubmit. So for example, they're giving us very specific feedback, such as they want to see two different data sets. One is if the project were not to be built, and then one if the project were to be built, kind of how does that change the numbers? They want a common set of numbers that we can use for various parts of the project. And then I think, to be blunt, we can do a better job making sure that we have a letter from the state of Washington that explains that these projections are legitimate and real. We can do the same thing from the county. We can do the same thing from PSRC. We can do the same thing from Sound Transit. We had letters of support for our grant application, but we did not have those letters speak directly to the economic analysis under which we are attesting that this project is necessary. So I think that listen, at some point too, this administration doesn't want to spend a lot of money in blue states, and like that's going to be a cart we're going to have to push uphill.
Yeah, and the other thing that we've been analyzing is the contract terms. And I think Jeff may have shared with all of you an analysis of what the federal government is putting in their new contracts and the limitations that it puts on cities. So we're doing a critical review of that as well.
And I was going to speak to that issue next, actually, but I'll take more questions now.
Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was going to ask about, I mean, does or would Snohomish County tomorrow and PSRC have credibility with this administration, I guess? And I mean, we can get the support from them and get letters addressing these issues. I don't think that would be an issue since I'm fairly involved in both. But do they carry credibility? I mean, is that enough?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm not sure I'm comfortable answering that on or off the record. I will say that the RAISE grant program specifically, Congress, the last time Congress put this in place, they were worried about this outcome. They were worried about, in the first Trump administration, 80% of the RAISE grant awards went to red states. And so when it was reauthorized in 2021, they put guardrails into the program to ensure that there was a minimum equitable distribution to all 50 states. So there is a minimum floor amount that has to come to Washington State. So from that standpoint, we have an obligation to make sure that the data that we put in is not only our data that we're putting forward, but it's our data that's substantiated with every single level of government that we can bring with us in that application. And again, we've had the letters of support in the past, but we did not have them focused on the economic assumptions and the growth targets that are so critical to what's before the city.
Now, Councilmember Murray.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Jake. I guess maybe a different, do we know what that minimum number that comes to Washington is? I guess I'm just trying to understand. I know that these grants are a lot of work from staff perspective, and it's like we submitted it, we got feedback, we made those adjustments, we submitted again, and then it feels like the goalpost has moved, I guess. So in terms of like energy spent and potential positive outcome, recognize that you maybe aren't comfortable speaking specifically to that, but at some point that's I think a decision that we have to make as a city. And so I guess how much money like is guaranteed to come to Washington, and maybe do we know what the applicant pool total like applications were for this last cycle?
Yeah, we do. We know all that. Sorry.
No.
Let me scroll up on my
Those were
notes
very
and I'll answer.
specific questions.
So in the last round, there was $488 million to award. And just to be clear, that was the second tranche of RAISE grant funding that was put into place because last year's appropriations bills were so late. So there were 2 RAISE grant rounds last year. So in the next RAISE grant round, there's going to be $1.5 billion to award. Of that, you asked me what was designated for Washington State. That is a knowable number. I just don't know it with me tonight. Overall, there were 815 applications requesting $10 billion into this account in the last cycle. There were 30 projects awarded. 23 were capital and 7 were planning. 50% of them were urban. And we were ranked one of the highest from the state of Washington in terms of the scoring criteria. And again, where we failed was we had a negative benefit cost analysis. So the end numbers that you were asking me for here, sorry, I'm scrolling through my notes as I'm talking to you. Of the 815 applications that went in, 249 of them were highly recommended, and that is including us. Of those ones, so what that means is that the grant review team took the initial swing at them and put 249 of them into the highly recommended category. Those then go for a formal BCA, kind of within the USDOT, right? And of those, so it goes from 815 to 249, goes from 249 to 97. We made that list as well. So we were one of the, what's that, top, not quite 10%, top 15%, give or take a little bit. And then those 97 projects went to the secretary, and that's the list that they made the awards from. And of those 97 projects, what did I tell you? How many were totally funded? 50? So roughly half of those projects were funded. Of those 97 projects that went to the secretary, 29 of them had a negative BCA.
Were they, I guess, so in terms, were they all, do we know the demographics of the?
We don't.
Okay.
Again, this is probably knowable things, but
Yeah.
there's a limit to how much Excel diving I'm willing to do.
That's real. So I guess, so in terms of the actual structure, and I know I'm getting the weeds a little bit here, but again, I know that this is a huge project, and I know part of it is, is it worthwhile to continue
Right.
to pursue this, at least
Right.
at this given time, right? I mean, it's potential huge upside, but also, you know, if it isn't a potentially fruitful endeavor, you know, I guess, you know, I think that's something we need to be thinking about. And so for Washington, so you said there's a minimum amount of money that has to come to Washington. We don't know what that is offhand, but we can find that out. Do they have to go with the highest ranked Washington projects, or ultimately when it goes to that final step where there's discretion and, you know, there's these negative assessments, is it ultimately whoever gets through that process, and that is fully based on the discretion of that person making that decision?
Great question. Yeah, I would say it's a technical review until you get to the secretary's desk, at which point it becomes a political review. So roughly in the last cycle, they funded half of the projects that came to the desk, but that was the universe they could choose from. And they have to do geographic distribution. They have to kind of make all that allocation work out. I don't know how that works exactly, but I will say that, you know, to the degree that the executive branch follows legislative direction for federal spending, big if, there are statutory requirements in terms of how these funds are supposed to be allocated to the states and kind of the guardrails around them. I don't want to get ahead of staff on this, which I think I am a little bit in this conversation, but clearly staff will be making a recommendation to council for like if this will be kind of something we would like the council to bless moving forward or not. We are having a fairly intensive kind of internal process to try to figure out what are the pros and the cons of doing this again. And do we think we have a reasonable chance of success? So hopefully that recommendation is coming to you. You know, Carolyn, I'm stepping on toes here. I know it.
Oh, yeah. I think one of the big questions is whether we get the state TIB grant, and that will help us move forward with phase one. So depending the outcome of that and pending some of these like contractual issues that we'll talk about, there's the question, do we move forward with phase one again, or do we move forward with phase two? So.
Council member, I would say that without regard to the decision the city makes on whether to resubmit the raise grant or not, I feel like we are as smart as we can be about the environment in which we're pursuing this funding, kind of how to improve the project should we choose to go forward, and if we choose to pull back, kind of for the justifiable reasons why. I mean, I feel like we've got the data, we've got the political support, we've got the policy support. I feel very confident in the decision-making that we're doing here. We're ahead of the decision recommendation that we're making.
Understood. I won't ask more questions.
No,
I'll wait for
ask all the questions you want,
further
but
recommendations.
I just don't want to get ahead of staff on this one.
Thank you.
Did I see another hand go up over there? No? Okay. All right, Jake.
Great, let me keep going forward then, and then I'll stand for more questions. So that's kind of a progress report on what are some of our biggest initiatives right now. That's kind of where we're at and kind of where I think the short-term future is for each of these things. It's not going to be a surprise to you that the federal government is currently shut down. The House has not been in session for over a month at this point, and we are apparently going for the gold in terms of longest government shutdown, which anybody want to guess what it is? 35 days. Mayor Pro Tem gets a gold star. And that was in the first Trump administration. So I'm fairly confident we're going to exceed that number. We're in the mid-20s right now. I don't see us getting to an agreement in the next 2 weeks. What does this mean? I'm sorry to be so glib about it. These actually have legitimate human consequences, and they're going to be hard soon. After the last shutdown in the first Trump administration, Congress put a lot of guardrails into the appropriations and the budget bills to make sure that in any future shutdown, any federal obligation that was incurred during a shutdown was statutorily required to be paid once the government got back into, or once the government opened up again and got back into control. So any program that is statutorily authorized right now and is obligated, those funds are statutorily secure. And I'm using the word statutorily a lot tonight because a lot of the tension right now in DC is in fact who has control over federal funds. And we'll get to that conversation in just a moment. There are some programs whose authorization has expired. They're not of direct concern to the city as a municipal body, but for example, the ability for hospitals to bill for telehealth visits to the Medicare program. That authority has expired. So anybody who's seeing a doctor right now via a web program and is using the Medicare program for billing, that hospital is doing that service on faith. They're not doing it with a understanding that they will be reimbursed by the Medicare program. There's a million examples of similar types of programs like that, but things that are directly impacting the city and federal funds that flow to the city to support key programs, those are statutorily protected right now. There'll be a cash flow problem, but there will be a recompense opportunity at the same time. However, we have immediate pain points that start as early as tomorrow. And the question is, will these pain points motivate both parties to kind of come back to the table and find an agreement on the budget? The first pay point is that tomorrow is the next pay period for federal employees. That will be missed. So if you have federal agency employees that you're relying on, they are not getting paid during the shutdown, even if their salaries are guaranteed to be paid for once the government gets back into effect. So there's going to be hardship on families that cannot afford to miss that paycheck in the short term. The next thing that is happening is 27 states have announced that they will be denying or stopping SNAP payments, which are food bank and welfare food support programs, starting November 1st, because there's no federal revenues to support those programs. Washington is one of those states. So we are going to expect hardship in the states from our most vulnerable populations that will be facing a crisis of both housing and food, right as the winter months kind of kick in fierce. I don't know what to say. I don't want to be the harbinger of terrible things, but these are things that are likely to happen. Harm will be done. And the question is what happens as a result? And I don't know the answer to that question. But I think from a municipal standpoint, we need to really be thinking about what is the short-term impact on the vulnerable people in our community, and what, if anything, can we do to Band-Aid, support in the short term. It's terrible. I don't know what to say.
Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Do we know who those people are? In other words, is there a list somewhere from the state or wherever that that we're able to obtain to be able to reach out and see how we can help?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I don't know the answer, but we can look into that.
Okay, thank you.
Wouldn't the school district be able to help us in that endeavor, because they have probably the closest contact with those groups of people, especially with SNAP through the kids, because they're the ones that they get that because of their parents' situation?
I just think starting November 1st, we're going to start to see, that's when we'll start seeing the real human impact of this shutdown.
Question going back to you talking about the statutory protections. And we know that definitions are changing regarding how monies that were already allocated or potentially allocated are no longer allocated because the definitions of the grant conditions are changing. So if those definitions change, does that go right out the window, the protection
Hold that thought. That's actually the next section on my presentation here. Any other questions on the shutdown before I directly answer Councilmember Page's comment?
Okay.
Okay, I got one more then. So as you just alluded to, essentially so much of what's happening right now with the federal tension comes down to a single question. And that question is, who has control over federal spending? Is it the legislative branch or is it the executive branch? And this is, and I am not being flamboyant with this description, this is a constitutional crisis that we are dealing with, and it is not resolved through the courts as we speak. But essentially, who has control over federal spending? And can the administration, no matter who it is, can they encumber previously awarded grants that are out there, redefine the terms of them, and essentially change the terms of a contract agreement that's already in place? Can they require municipalities to abide by executive orders instead of the legislative statutory language and definitions that exist? All of these questions are before the courts right now. And in fact, there's one that's very important here in the state of Washington. It's King County versus Turner. That fundamentally addresses this question of, can the administration unilaterally renegotiate, or not renegotiate, impose a set of criteria on a previously executed grant agreement. The outcome of these court cases defines, now I'm being a little much, right? But it defines everything. Because if the executive office has the authority to make these types of unilateral changes, then we've created a lack of security in the federal funds that are available to us because they could change based on an election. Whether Congress chooses to reestablish its authority over the federal budget and spending, which we believe they will do, but we do not know, this year, then that will provide a greater set of guardrails and protections for federal funds that the city gets in the future. So I hate to say I don't know, but it's literally before the courts right now, and it's going to be probably, from a constitutional standpoint, one of the biggest issues that will be before the courts in the very next short term. This directly goes into our consideration of, do we continue to compete for funding at the federal level, such as resubmitting the next raise grant? Are we willing to abide by the criteria that the executive office will want to encumber that grant award with? Or, and again, I don't have direction for the city other than it's a series of bad choices and bad bets, right? Do we take the upside of significant federal investment in a project that we can't do without it versus the cost of potentially losing a legal fight and having to abide by the restrictions that these funds come with? Or do we take the cost of sitting out funding cycles and wait for a future with a different cast of characters in power? I mean, I don't have clear direction for the city right now. I can tell you that every city I get to work with is wrestling with this problem. Every city. And I will say, I mean, WashDOT is dealing with cities that are administering federal funds right now, and they would be a great entity to ask how other municipalities are responding to this challenge. I realize I'm not bringing you answers to your questions, but these really are kind of the functional questions that we have to address right now. Happy to take more questions, but I really don't know answers.
Councilmember Salmore? Oh, you, okay. Anyone else? Wow, okay.
It's been a very exciting year.
Yeah, we have to look at the pros and cons. I hate to sit out any years, but if we're going to be awarded something with strings attached, it's, so.
But Mayor, the issue will be, they will try to attach strings. We will not know the judicial outcome of whether they are allowed to do so or not,
right,
until after we have to make the decision on whether to compete. That's the.
Okay, Councilmember Salmore?
Mine's, sorry, there's a little bug flying all around here. Just a general question. How long can our roof last at the senior center?
Did the what?
I don't have a black and white answer for that. I mean, it's due. It's got some problems, but, you know, like roofs, you can patch them and hope that they'll last longer. But that is separate from, well, I guess the question, that's a good question. Would a congressional appropriation have the same requirements as like the build grant? Not sure.
Well, I'm
So,
just asking, if our
yeah.
roof is going to collapse tomorrow, then our residents would have to pay for it. And so if we can patch it and let it go longer, that helps with decision-making on sometimes of different things. Our downtown is something that's a little bit more different that we've been working on for years and years. And Jake, you've been putting together those letters for years that have always helped us, and people have signed on. And I'm glad to hear that you guys went out to 38 other cities who signed on with you, what you put out there as well. You're a good source of what we hear, what's going on in DC. And so, you know, we've got a lot of decisions to make based upon our current budget. And so it puts us in a tough decision of what do we do, because we can't keep on just automatically thinking that our citizens are going to pay for certain things. So it just kind of gives us a roundabout way of knowing really that the probability from the state, we're probably not going to get anything, and there's a probability that we probably won't submit anything, is what I'm hearing. And so the funds or maybe have dried up for us for a while. I know you're optimistic.
I don't want
so-
you to take that conclusion or recommendation from me. I think I would say that it is up to the council to make a tough choice about if we continue to pursue federal funding or not, based on the environment as we understand it. And I would actively encourage each of you to talk to your counterparts in other cities, because you are not by any stretch the only city dealing with this challenge right now. Every single one of your neighbors and every single city in the state of Washington is dealing with this challenge, both with existing grant programs that have already been awarded, and those terms are trying to be renegotiated, and with the potentiality of seeking future federal funds. I can't advise clearly about this. I can't, because I know what the values of this city are, and we don't want to sign anything that diminishes our values as a community. At the same time, I'd be remiss if I was not biased against the city pursuing federal funds and making sure that we go and chase whatever we can get whenever we can get it, because that's how we're going to build these things.
And Jake, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I don't have a, this is not clear sailing on this one, Councilwoman.
Well, my first question, I'm sorry, really quick, was when the mayor called on me, was what can it hurt? And I didn't want to put it out in that term, and so that's why I held back, because I didn't want to offend anybody, because I'm not trying to do that. But I want to know, what can it hurt for us to go out there? Is it primarily because of the restrictions and not so much of the funding, or is it a matter of kind of both? Because if it was in a regular environment, of course, we would say, yes, of course, we're not holding back. We want all the money we can get. So is that the primary thing that you're stating that other cities are looking at? It's based, because I'm just thinking of the roof, you know, restrictions, and the other money maybe you could talk more about. But to me, I guess I want as much money for our city as possible, but I don't know all the restrictions, and I don't really want to get into too many of those, but
The city will continue to be in a position where the executive branch, who will administer whatever congressional funds we're able to get, right? Because they will be grants administered through federal agencies. The executive branch will continue to encumber those awards with compliance with executive orders, which means, you know, the city cannot have DEI programs. I can't even keep track of all the executive orders that are out there. But, you know, there's a series of, I think, 73 executive orders that the city will be asked to comply with. The legal ability of the administration to do that is what is being adjudicated right now in the courts. And if the administration is allowed to do that, then yeah, you can't take the money unless you agree to meet the restrictions that come with them. I don't know. I mean, again, this is a policy decision for council to make, which is that, do we keep going forward, or do we, you know, and staff is working on this specifically with regard to the next raise grant, you know, opportunity and obligation. We do not have a recommendation for you today.
I think that this council will need to talk about that and make a decision. But I saw another hand go up. Okay. Any, Councilmember Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jake. One more question, I guess, that I think you can answer. So the current question before the courts, is it whether the administration can encumber grants that have already been made, or is it whether they can also do that in regards to future grants? Because I guess it seems like that's two different questions from my perspective.
Yeah, and there's 50 lawsuits on this, right, across the country in different ways. I mean, they all come to a single fulcrum point, though, right, which is that which branch of government has control over the federal budget, right? That's what it comes down to. It's going to the Supreme Court at some point, like it has to, but it's going to matriculate up in a variety of different ways. So the King County versus Turner case is specifically about redefining existing executed grant agreements that are in place. But there's other lawsuits in other jurisdictions and in other states that are dealing with kind of future issues. We have to wait till harm happens before you can sue to remedy it, though. So this is the first budget that this Congress and this administration are putting into place. So the question is, what will they do to earmark funding kind of in this budget, and how will that be encumbered in the future? We don't know, right?
And we're a long way out from answers.
We're a long way out from answers.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
I would casually remark that you can compete for funding. You don't have to sign the grant agreement.
Councilmember Samuel?
Sorry, was that out loud?
Mine are just curiosity questions. Would it be 72 or 74 restriction on every grant we would apply for? And if we got it, it would be 73, or could it be 10 on one and 15?
The 73 was my estimation. It's not an exact number. The administration is actively, in the King County versus Turner issue, there are cities, including cities that I represent, that have been asked to modify existing executed grant agreements. And what the cities are being asked to do is there's a stop work on the grant project. And until the city is willing to sign an amendment to the executed grant agreement that says that they will comply with all existing and future executive orders. So we don't even know like what the future executive orders might be, right? And that is fundamentally, in the King County versus Turner case, the primary question is this contract law? Is this, you know, what is it, right? We're going to see this matriculate up in that lawsuit in one way. But for other agencies, it is, can the administration rescind funds, which they've been doing? Can the president withhold funds for a project in Manhattan as a way to punish, you know, Democratic leaders in Congress? Is that the power that the executive branch has over congressionally appropriated funding? So that's, all of these questions are going to be moving through the courts, but it fundamentally comes to a singular question, which is who has control over the federal budget?
My other question, this is a really curiosity question. Last time it shut down, I saw a lot of agencies shut down everything. This time, I see them not shutting down everything. They're still working on projects that were submitted like prior, or some employers are still doing some certain work. But you're saying tomorrow, all the federal employees will miss their payday. So I'm wondering how that will change, but and if they'll still be held to that certain standard. But it was set at our last shutdown that they had to have certain policies that would go in place that would make sure, sorry, I was trying to look at my notes, that had that, I think that's where you were talking about the statutory requirements put in. Is that why some of the things and certain agencies have changed since the last shutdown?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I know the specific answer to that question. I can tell you that in general, every federal agency is required to designate staff as essential or non-essential, I guess. I don't know what the precise terminology is. The essential staff are required to show up to work even as they're not getting paid in order to continue the functions of government. But what you don't have then is you don't have the breadth of government to do things. So phones aren't getting answered, emails aren't getting returned, et cetera. You just imagine if Carolyn was the only one who showed up at work, right? You'd have one very stressed out assistant city manager, and not everything would be done in the city at the same time. So that is what's happening. The statutory protection is that salaries of federal employees are statutorily protected. So even if you are a non-essential employee who has been told that you cannot show up for work during a shutdown, your salary is guaranteed once the Congress comes back in. The problem is that not every family has the savings to manage multiple missed paychecks.
Councilmember Woodard?
I've been sitting quietly, and I just want to add, and that presumes this current president doesn't do what he says he's going to do. We're going to pay the people we want to, and we'll take care of the other ones, I believe is a direct quote. So even that's not guaranteed. I appreciate you saying it might be statutory, but is it? What does it even mean to be statutory at this point in time? Oh, did I say that out loud?
That's exactly what keeps me up at night, Councilmember.
So are the raise grants that Shoreline got for their bridge and Linwood got for their overpass, is that on hold?
I can't speak to the Linwood project. The Shoreline project is, the raise grant is not encumbered at this point. I'd like to also be clear that the raise grant has very different protections around it than other federal grant programs. There are other cities that border you, including Shoreline, that have had federal grants paused for review. And, I don't think I'm telling any secrets out of school here. It's a very difficult time.
All right. Anyone else?
It's a great job. Everybody should do this. It's fantastic. It's so much fun.
Well, you're doing a great job, so.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, just along those lines, thank you. I'm in serving on PSRC, I'm getting regular updates, monthly updates the entire year, just talking about the crises that we're facing at the federal level. And I can assure you that we're not the only ones concerned about this. I mean, there's cities across the region, the counties, PSRC and each of the counties signed on to that lawsuit that you're talking about to determine how funds are going to be expended and what can be encumbered. It is fascinating times, unprecedented times, and it's But what I really wanted to say was thank you for doing all the work. You're doing a stellar job of working through this and dealing with it at the federal level. I'm glad we're just here at the local level because what's going on at the federal level right now is unsustainable, honestly, but unmanageable, and it's difficult. And appreciate you doing the work and keeping us abreast and helping us guide us through these challenging times. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Mountlake Terrace is special to me, and I'm eager to see us all continue to work forward on these issues.
All right. So, did you finish?
Does everybody have a therapist? Okay.
Well, yes, we really do appreciate, even if it's not everything we wanted to hear, it's nice to know that we're not imagining things. So, thank you.
Mayor, I was just going to go off the comment you said. In the past, we didn't ever had a federal lobbyist before, so we didn't have this type of information as thoroughly coming to us as before. So that's why you keep on hearing us say thank you, Jake, and we just really appreciate you.
One last question, just, sorry, unsolicited, is I hope, I think I actually expect, I don't think cities are going to take a scattershot approach to dealing with this. I think what you do is going to be what Woodinville does, is going to be what Redmond does, is going to be what Ellensburg does, is going to, I think cities are going to come to a collective understanding, at least state by state, you know, in terms of how they're going to take this on. I would encourage you as much as you can through PSRC, through the county, through, you know, Snohomish County cities and towns, through AWC, through whatever organizations you're with. I think that there is a stronger collective action than all trying to figure this out individually and having one city do it differently than everybody else. I do think that we need to make a collective choice as communities if we want to engage with federal funding. And if it's not going to work if you do one thing and Linwood does something else and Mill Creek does something else. And I just think that creates a hard place for our delegation to be helpful to you, too.
So I'm going to put you on the spot. Is that your biggest fear?
No,
No. What is your biggest fear?
that we hurt people through the shutdown.
Okay.
Okay, I think that is it. I don't see any other hands going up. All right. Thank you, Jake. So before we Okay, so now, next we have our review of the professional services agreement with Kenyon Disend for city attorney services with our deputy city manager, Carolyn Hope.
All right, thank you, and good evening, everyone. It is time to renew our agreement with our contract city attorney who works for the firm Kenyon Disend. We've been using Hillary Evans as our main attorney. She is a managing partner there. And we are bringing a contract forward to renew this agreement. There is an increase of going from about $270 per hour to $315, and that is because we have not increased the rate since we initially contracted with this firm in 2021. So that represents a 3% increase per year. I do want to point out that this is still more affordable than having an on-staff attorney. The fees have been in the realm of $200,000 to $241,000 per year in the last couple of years. If we were to bring on our own attorney, that would definitely be closer to $275,000 or more per year. Some of the benefits that we have with the contract firm are that Hillary has a team of people who work with her who can substitute when she's not around. They can help her with bigger projects. And there are people with a variety of different expertise on the team who have supported us in different ways over the years. So we're bringing this contract renewal forward. It's on an hourly basis for the next 2 years. Happy to answer any questions.
Who wants to go first? Did you? Okay. Councilmember Murray.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Deputy City Manager. I guess my question is just around cost increases and kind of when we go to market and when we don't go to market and understanding that a little bit better and making sure that the public understands that as well. I know we've talked a lot about costs in recent times, and that's not an insignificant cost increase, especially, you know, when we look at the idea that we're retroactively increasing because it's 11% for next year, and I think it's 40% between now and the year after next year, which are not insignificant cost increases. So I guess maybe you could just speak to kind of here, that's where we think the market is. How do we know where the market is? And like, what have we looked at to determine that this feels like a fair contract, you know, for the city, given the cost increases?
Yes, so I would say that this is a comparable rate with other firms out there. We did not do a competitive process this time. There wasn't a feeling among the majority of council to do that, and the staff recommendation was to move forward with the same firm because we've been really, it takes a while. It's like having a staff member, right? So it takes a while to build that relationship and for the attorney to get to understand our particular city's issues. So there's been a lot of great progress working with Attorney Evans, and so that was the recommendation moving forward. And I understand that the costs are, it's a big jump, and I think the problem is we just haven't brought the rate up each year like it should have been.
So we don't actually have anything in the market, though, that we compared it to? Like, so did they tell us that's what the market was, or did we do research to determine what the market is?
I'm sorry that this was, this one was managed by Jeff, so I don't have all the details on this, but I can tell you from my experience working with contract attorneys elsewhere that the rate is in line with other cities, what they're paying.
Okay,
So.
I appreciate that. I just recognize, one, I will always name that I think, ultimately budget and the money we spend is, I think, a reflection of values. And I think it's always interesting to me where we focus on costs and where we don't. And I hear that staff, it feels like this is a good decision. And as a council member, it's hard for me to know without any other data points, right?
I understand, yeah.
So I don't have I don't have a huge issue moving forward with this, but also sometimes we're focused on how we're spending every dollar, and then we get something like this without any sort of here's what our, cities nearby are paying, and this is why this is a really good deal. It's really hard for me to go, oh, okay, it makes sense that we didn't go to market because we have this strong relationship and because we were getting a below market deal that so I guess for me, it would be helpful if it's going to go on the consent agenda at the next meeting. It would be helpful to know what some of those comparable cities around us are paying for those services.
Okay.
So that I can explain if somebody asks me why I thought this was a good idea to move forward on without any sort of competitive bid or additional conversation that I can point to those numbers and be like, here's why we did that.
Sure.
Okay. Thanks, Carolyn.
Did I see another hand?
Oh, I was just going to say, in the past, we had Greg Schrag, who was our attorney, and the benefit of him was he knew Washington state law. He was here. He never missed a meeting. There was at certain times that people would come to him to ask him about city law. And I don't have any problem with Hillary. She always has somebody online. In the past, we've always had our attorney here, but things have changed and times have changed, and I don't see an issue with that. The one thing I know, I asked her at a former meeting, because I thought she represented 6 cities, and I thought, well, that's a lot for an attorney. And then she said her company represents 20, and that is one of the benefits of having a company like this and looking at these rates, because we know how much attorneys can go up in rates, and it's a lot higher than this per hour. And having that benefit, I'm sure some of the work may overlap, but they do have a team of people that can help. And you need somebody who knows about city law, because every area of law you work in, you have to have experts. So I think this contract looks great.
Did we still want to mention? Oh,
I wish it was a lot lower, but I shouldn't say it looks great, but.
Councilmember Woodard?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm just trying to be quiet tonight. I do want to also just go back on record and make sure we pull this forward, that I personally remember being asked if we were okay with this, and so that also, I would imagine, led to us not doing a competitive pool of the pool to see who's out there. So just kind of want to make sure that we were kind of involved, because you did ask us, and so if we had said, yeah, I think we would have gone that route, but just want to put that out there. I do recall being asked, and I said I was comfortable moving forward.
Councilmember Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess, yeah, I will just put on record, I did say, yes, we should go out for a competitive bid, because I think that is the wise thing to do given our budget considerations. So that was where my follow-up questions came from. Recognize that may have not been the majority consensus, but also recognize it is interesting where there is majority consensus to analyze budget dollars in a very specific way, and where there is not. And I think that's just something for all of us to sit with and think about as we have these conversations.
Well, I think for some of the other council members who had the last our attorney, Greg Schrag, I remember seeing in the budget or the costs, monthly costs, the overtime costs, and I just asked Mayor Pro Tem how much was that, and it was high every month. And so when we hired this firm, and for me, I really liked having someone like Greg around, that was always around, that you could, it was approachable and so forth. But I knew that he needed to retire. He wanted to retire, and he did. And and so, and the cost really did go down, and it's still not. It'll take years before we get up to that point again. Did you want to add to that, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'm incredibly concerned about the costs of everything right now and how much everything is going up, and to the point of going out for RFP, request for proposals, qualifications for those, and this was one that I didn't feel, or I felt comfortable moving ahead without doing the RFP, but just FYI, for the others that we did RFPs, we only got one response back from, and that was from our current, folks that are doing it. I mean, it's a difficult environment out there, and costs are going up on everything, and we're struggling to pay for it all. And so on one hand, I'm very comfortable with our current firm and the work that they do, and so I'm supportive of moving forward with this as it is. I am concerned about just the costs of this and everything else and the challenges we're facing. And to Councilmember Murray's point, I mean, when we are doing RFPs, we just aren't getting a competitive field to even be choosing from on a lot of proposals, which is making it even more concerning and difficult and challenging for us to address the cost burdens that we're facing. And we're going to have a much longer discussion on costs and finances coming up. We all know it's a challenge that we're facing and need to deal with. But on this specific thing that's before us tonight, I am comfortable moving forward with it, and particularly the firm and the attorneys that are representing the city with us have done a great job. Appreciate the work that they've done, and I'm very supportive of continuing to retain them. Thank you.
Okay, so you have your answer. Thank you. All right, shall we move on? So the next is our city manager's report, which is back to Carolyn Hope.
All right, thank you. Just have a few things to share with you today. One, I believe you know that the state auditor is underway for the 23-24 annual financial reports. So finance is busy with that. We recently had a WCIA audit. That's our insurance pool. So they audit every year a different aspect of our city. And this year they audited Public Works, and we passed that audit, no problem. And we also had our annual board meeting. I think that Jeff will share some information with you tomorrow about some of the results from the board meeting, where they shared our rates for 2026 and some of the budget outcomes for the agency for the next year. I believe that Jeff shared with you an article in the Seattle Times today about Flock. We had a commenter earlier tonight that spoke to that a little bit, and I just wanted to reiterate to the community that our Flock camera system is on pause, and we have not purchased the cameras. They are not in place. And last night, we had our water and sewer comp plan public forum. Some of you were there. Thank you for showing up. We had about 36 people in attendance, both in person and online. We did the hybrid format. And it was, interestingly, one of the most unique formats. And so we had all of our water partners and sewer partner, so City of Everett, Alderwood Water District, and City of Edmonds. at the table with our Public Works Director and our consultant who's working on our water and sewer comp plans. And they together described how we get water, how we treat it, the capital projects underway with each of the agencies, and then how we dispose of our wastewater and some of the challenges that we're facing there. And then we went through some of the highlights from our water rate study and the plans moving forward. There were a lot of great questions, obviously concerns about the rates. And interestingly, I guess back to my original point, some of the other agencies were like, wow, no one's ever done this before. And we've been getting kudos from the different agencies last night and all today about how they want to repeat that in other areas and just making it more transparent to all of our ratepayers about how they get their water, where the wastewater goes, all the steps in between, why it costs what it costs, and both the operational side and the capital side. So I felt like that was a really great success, and thankful for Gary Shimmick, our Public Works Director, for partnering with everyone and coming up with that great strategy. And we plan to have some more meetings early next year about the sewer side of the house and the results of the actual plans. Wanted to mention that we have 4 LTAC applications in hand from the Arts of the Terrace, Get Sauced, Wagfest with a different operator, and then the city submitted an application for the 3rd of July family celebration. So the total requests are more than what we have budgeted, $80,000. And Andrew Applewick will be planning the LTAC meeting for the middle of November or so. Arts of the Terrace, the Get Sauced event, Wagfest, but with a different operator, not the chamber, and the 3rd of July, our own event. So,
Do we have enough money for the city for the parade if we have one?
no.
Councilmember Page? Turn on your mic. It's not on.
Okay. As a former audit guy, my ear always perks up when I hear about audits. And, you know, when I hear that we pass, no problem. So does that mean that, is there a numerical score and that mean we got 100? Or there is a numerical score, but we didn't get 100, but we passed what the expectation is of what we should get as an audit, and there are no concerns that came as a result of the audit?
The WCI Public Works audit, it's more about our risk and do we have certain procedures and policies in place? And there was no question that we answered that was a concern for them.
Okay. And the other question on the LTAC, has the deadline passed for applications?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Mayor Pro Tem Wall?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So nothing from the chamber?
I'm sorry.
So nothing from the chamber this cycle?
Lost.
The chamber. Yeah, I'm.
No, it's in.
I
and you
don't
said-
believe the chamber submitted, and my understanding in talking with staff is that they're rethinking their strategy moving forward about whether they'll be doing events or not.
Huh, okay, thank you.
Just a couple other quick updates, and then I can answer some more questions. The generator project is moving forward. I believe that last time we let you know about the structural issues we're working with, so we're making progress moving forward with that. And the EV charging project, which you see out in the parking lot, is also moving forward well. We plan to be finished on schedule, so that's great. And at Ballinger Park, they're paving, so that's great. And then they've been clearing some land for the mitigation plantings, so that's moving along well. Also, just a reminder that there's a vaccination clinic here tomorrow for people who are uninsured or all children. And so there's information on our website about that. And lastly, I just wanted to share that we have received an email today from Mountlake Terrace Elementary. And there's a teacher there who is part of the Kindness Leaders Club, and specifically the LGBTQAI Plus Club. And they are looking at doing a field trip, and the students requested to visit City Council. And they also would like to meet the DEI commissioners. And interestingly, the DEI Commission has been talking about doing something a little different at Children's Day next year, to like have more of an educational opportunity for kids to come in and like hear from all of you about your roles, or maybe there's like more of a mock meeting than what we did the last time. So we're open to ideas about that. If council's interested, I'm sure commissioners would love to talk to you about it, and we can help organize that if you're willing. That's all I have to report.
Thank you. Anyone have any comments?
For
Councilmember
this-
Sommer?
Did you call? Sorry.
Councilmember Sommer?
Are you going to bring in that presentation to council to be shown at a council meeting for the water and sewer rates? Thank you. I know it's really important to know where our water comes from and where it goes and why we have to update it because of aging infrastructure. But for the regular customer out there, they want to know the bottom line of what they have to pay. And I recently just saw somebody complaining about their bill, and they were billed twice in the same month. And we've had problems in the past with our billing system, and I know we've changed it a couple times. Is that something that you've had some recent complaints about? Somebody said they got billed on like the 9th, and they paid for it, and they got billed again on like 10/16. And I wasn't sure how that was happening because I thought the billing cycle and the company we used had that figured out.
I would be happy to help you if you want to share the customer that you're talking about, if you want them to contact me.
I can say something because I it was one of them.
Oh, all right.
I got my bill, I paid my bill, and then I was told that I'm late and I'm going to have my water shut off.
That's exactly what I read.
And so I sent that into the city, and I said, oh, no, I called the city. I called to see, and my bill was paid.
Okay, I'll check in tomorrow with the utility bill.
And they were having problems with the vendor or whoever sending out these other forms, but I was one of them that got it, and at least I knew to ask. Because I almost paid it. I thought I paid it, but I'll pay. And I was just about ready to punch the online thing when I went, let me double check it. So I double checked my register, and I had paid it. That's when I called.
Okay. Yeah, certainly if they're not getting a response from calling customer service, please just let me know and I'll be happy to help. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's the first I've heard of it.
And I understand when Jeff called me back, that it was a vendor glitch. And I said, geez, I hope that I'm the only one and not everyone else in the city is having this problem.
Is that gives our residents a sour taste of water bills on top of what they're already paying. And we've gone through this before with a vendor. And then I remember we got another vendor. There was some stuff going on. But when we're doing water and sewer rates, we really want to make sure those bills are correct. And when are those water and sewer rates studies going to be finished?
I'll make sure that we get you the schedule for when we plan to have updates to council, hopefully in tomorrow's email, if not soon after.
And so they'll be giving us a presentation.
Oh, yes.
On because that's not going to be a fun one, I don't think. So it's just, we want to make sure the bills are right, and we're very educated on that stuff, because if we miss not going up in a certain rate amount, the next time it's done, it could go way up, and that's kind of what happened to us last time, I believe. So
Yes, we definitely will be bringing those to you. We're in, this last night was more of like a community engagement portion of the work, and they're not done with the plan yet. So, but happy to bring it to you in early next year, I think is when we're planning on it, but I'll double check that date for you.
Councilmember Woodard?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, John, keep it quiet. Once again, I'd appreciate it if it isn't already yesterday's presentation at least being available online.
Yes.
I thought it was powerful. I don't think people are going to understand it when they get to the latter parts, but there's enough in it, enough there that you should at least get the gist of it. It really was a good presentation. And I presume we didn't record it because I logged in. Oh, you did? That's weird. You didn't ask me if I cared about that when I logged in. So if you can put the recording out there as well, that'd be even
Yes.
better. I put that more than the slide deck. And I'll just leave it at, that was a really good presentation. Everybody played very nicely, and it was nice to have Phil back in the house. So that was pretty cool, too. Yeah, so it was
That
nice
was
to hear him
nice.
talk politely about the work, but also just kind of recognizing that upstream to downstream mentality was awesome. So I hope they do replicate that elsewhere.
Hey, Councilmember Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor. That's good. I'd like to watch that. I was unable to attend. Just off the brain here, did they mention anything about the city of Everett raising water rates possibly?
Yeah, we've been talking to Everett quite a bit, and Gary's thick in negotiations with Alderwood, and we've gone up and, Jeff and I also went up and spoke with someone from the mayor's office and the public works director, just to get a handle on what's going on. So there's been a lot of conversations going on about why the rates are going up so high, what projects can be bonded, or the different ways to spread out the capital costs and so forth, so.
Great, thank you.
Councilmember Woodard?
Yeah, I would just add for Councilmember Ryan, that's part of the slide deck. I said people won't understand, but they did put it in front of us. But I think you really have to be kind of really in that world to understand, what am I looking at? But they didn't hide it, and that's why I was saying, I thought that was very courageous of the entire spectrum there to have that conversation in front of us. So, so the information is there, hard to understand, but it is there.
Yes, and it's on YouTube. It's already on YouTube, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Murray.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Deputy City Manager. Question following up on a question that I'd asked Jeff last week, so apologies that you may not be ready to answer this question, but I'm still getting questions about garbage service. I personally haven't seen any communication come from Waste Management, and I got questions again from neighbors this week who thought it was our week for yard waste. That didn't get picked up because we've now moved to an every other week schedule where they collect both in my neighborhood. I only know that though because I've been in these meetings and I've pulled up the calendar on Waste Management's website that now has our little or quad colored community map. So I think when we talk about pain points in terms of city services, like when people's service doesn't get picked up, like those are visible things that we do that they get frustrated about.
Yeah.
So particularly, I think we're a month in now. I honestly think this is the fourth pickup, if not the third. I think it's the fourth. And there still hasn't been communication from Waste Management. I think at a minimum, if we can't get them to do the things that they should be doing, we need to put out communication around it. At least I don't think social media is the solution to all things, but I think it's something. So if we can link to the new map and let people know that that's something to be aware of and to, share that with their neighbors, that might be helpful. But I do think, Waste Management, my understanding from Jeff last week was that they were going to be calling us, and I've definitely not received a phone call.
Like
nor
calling
have my
every
neighbors.
home, okay.
Yes, to let us know that there's been a change, a pretty significant change in schedules. So, yeah,
Okay,
that'd be good.
I will talk to the contract manager tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councilmember Page.
Yeah, and I would like to send a message to our public works. I think it was last week, I talked about the street sweeper. The parts were broken. They said they got it fixed. And the message is thank you, because, those of us that live on the old Kmart Hill and had leaves and debris everywhere, this week, they came through once, came through twice, came through 3 times until they got everything cleaned up. So they got the part fixed. We talked about it Thursday. They got the part fixed, put it on the truck. The truck was out there taking care of the neighborhoods, as soon as they got it ready. And unfortunately now the leaves are back or whatever. But, it's important that they know that, it was recognized. They did what they needed to do. They got out there in the service in the city. So from Kmart Hill, thank you.
All right, thanks.
I think they missed our neighborhood. Councilmember Ryan.
Thank you. Since we're kind of in between city manager report and council
We
comments.
can go on to council comments.
Oh, there was the
Oh,
review, sorry.
Are we done with our
Yes.
city manager?
I was going to add something to the garbage thing.
Oh, okay, you can add to that.
I went on the website, and they still are not picking up recycles or yard waste according to their schedule north of 228th. And I don't know if they're confused because when you go north of 228th, the numbers go less. And I don't know if that's goofing them up or who changed it, but this is the fourth week now of not correct pickup.
Okay.
So,
Wow, our area is, they've been picking up what's on the calendar.
maybe it's someone on vacation on my route for 4 weeks.
I don't,
Anyway, I just wanted to mention that because,
no, ours is on the regular schedule.
yeah.
Okay,
So, I mean, like today, it said it was going to, or what is, no,
Yesterday.
Wednesday, pickup would be north of 28th is recyclables. Then south of 228th would probably be yard waste. But there's more than that because all the different colors they have there.
It used to be that
used to be
simple.
that, yeah.
Now they're, yeah, no, they're much more
have-
complex.
Okay,
so.
so that might be it. So, but their chart for me said yard waste. No, I mean, sorry, recyclables Wednesday, and they didn't pick it up.
and then if you put two out there, do they pick up one of them?
Well, actually, last week I put both out because I didn't know what was going on. And then they picked up one of them. Then I lose track of what they picked up. I look in there. Oh, they picked that? Yeah, it's empty. Anyway, I don't know what's going on with them, but just a little more feedback there for you. Thank you.
All right. Do we know anybody that works there? Because we used to know, yes, but they have all new,
We have contacts. Yeah, we'll take care of it.
well, we had our special contacts.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
Okay, all right, so now we can move on to review of the November 6th meeting agenda, which, Councilmember Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I would just follow up on the conversation earlier about the professional services agreement for Kenyon Disend, and just if we can get numbers that make it clear that the numbers we're paying are market, I'm happy to leave it on the consent agenda, but if we don't have those, I'd appreciate pulling that off.
Mayor, I'm not opposed to that. I was just making the argument of why I was okay with it, but I have no issue with that.
Okay. And do you want that in a email form to us ahead of time, or?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I mean, if we could get an email before it has to be posted, I can, get back or if I can just get the email before then, great. I was gonna say, if other folks want it too.
Well, no, everybody needs to get it.
Okay. And yeah, if not, then if we could pull it off, that would be great. Thank
No
you.
problem. Thank you.
All right. Yes. Uh-huh. Okay, so now we're on to council comments. Does anyone have any council comments? Councilmember Woodard.
Thank you. Two quick ones. First one is going back to the water rates and on the sewers, which is to remind us we have another atmospheric river moving in, and this is a great time to get out there and adopt a train. I did mine during the lunch hour and have timed it now the last 3 times. I do a pretty long stretch when I do clean up, and it takes me 17 minutes tops. And that's about 9 giant piles. So for what that's worth, all that would go into our sewer system and it would just clog up. And if you're wondering what happened by the time I got back from work, yes, all the leaves had repositioned themselves as though I had done nothing, which just is remind us the war is lost, but the battles must continue. And then number 2, a little less light, if Councilmember Murray and I both sign off on it, you should be receiving an email as early as tomorrow about the city manager next steps in the evaluation. So the 2 of us are still working through that, but we think we will probably be able to have the consultant reach out to you all by Friday. So I would say by Monday, if not this weekend, please check your emails because it is an aggressive timeline, is what I will say. Aggressive but doable, but aggressive nonetheless. So.
Thank you. Councilmember Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess kind of in follow-up to Jake's presentation about impact and community impact in terms of the government shutdown, I guess a couple thoughts. One, I wanted to plug, we got an invitation, Concern for Neighbors, which is our largest food bank here in Mountlake Terrace, is having a first-of-a-kind fundraiser for them at a cooking school on December 4th. And so they have information out there if folks are interested in joining them to help support covering the costs. I know they've spoken, and maybe it would be helpful to have them come back at some point soon, but they've spoken in terms of kind of the increased need is exponential, the funds donated and the goods donated are down. So I would just really encourage folks, if they're able to support them and other, opportunities to support one another. And then I think maybe a direct ask, Carolyn, in terms of city staff thinking about what, if anything, we can do in terms of support for folks who are potentially impacted. And I guess the first thing that comes to mind for me, my next door neighbors used to be an Army recruiter and his family, and so they were stationed here for 3 years, and I think that was during the last shutdown. But I guess in terms of I don't know if there are folks utilizing our childcare who are federal workers that perhaps we can, I don't know. I know that there's lots of specifics that we have to abide by as a city in terms of how we do things, but I guess just thinking about what, if anything, we can do to try to make things easier for folks who are maybe waiting longer than they should have to for a paycheck. I would love to support those efforts.
Councilmember Sonmore and then Page.
I don't know, I think our hands went up at the same time, but I just wanted to call upon Councilman Woodard to maybe keep us posted on Volunteers of America and what they're doing on food, because I know you led that drive before, and I know we delivered food to people that requested it, and it was such a rewarding and honorable thing for us to do, and I get goosebumps being able to deliver those boxes to people. And maybe it's that we put a list of the services that are available to people, and I'm thinking that maybe we have part of that already that we could, educate ourselves on when people ask us, and then, we can talk to Councilman Woodard about what his job and what they offer, because, when Jake was telling us about that, my heart kind of dropped. And then, mentioning the school districts, because I know they have a lot of programs for feeding children and packing lunches. And then our senior program at one time they were doing drive-through meals at one time, so maybe we could ask the seniors as well. I just wanted to bring up something really quickly. Councilman Wall mentioned, make sure the council all receives the same information, and I don't, and I've brought this up several times, so I'm bringing it up again. I do not have monthly meetings with the city manager. I've asked, and they were supposed to be on Tuesdays, so I don't. I know, Brian, Councilman Wall, you had mentioned that you'd gone with the economic director and the city manager. You guys had a meeting. And I'm like, well, why didn't we all get that opportunity? And I don't know what the situation was, but I'm just trying to point out different things. And in the past, one of our city managers would keep a list of everything he wanted to talk to the council about, so everybody would have the same exact information, because this situation had happened before at another time. And so I'm just requesting, if he's not going to meet with me, if we could have a list of what you're talked about, because the city manager evaluation, I didn't even know you guys were working on it, and I was surprised that he brought it up last time. And so there was some things I think I'm missing, and in order for fairness, I think that everybody should deserve to get the same information. And that's why you can, communication and delivering information can be two different things, and that's why I was so important that we had meetings before council meetings, so we would be prepared. And sometimes we get emails asking of us of our opinions, And I think those should come to council meetings instead of through an email asking us our opinion on certain things, because what happens is I might say yes, but I don't have the background information on what the city's looking for. And so I just want to put that out there.
Councilmember Page?
Just want to take this time to remind everybody, and I didn't get the opportunity to be here when you did the domestic violence proclamation, but I just want to update you all on some things that are going on. Next week, the Chamber's meeting or get-together is going to be at the Getaway, and that's for a specific reason, and it goes back to what the Getaway owners have decided that they were going to do is they're going to have a fundraiser for the domestic violence services of SNOCO. And so that's an opportunity for them to get all the businesses in front of them, let them know what's coming down the pike on the 5th, 6th, and 7th, of December, get some support from the businesses, because they got a ton of support from the community. They got over 100 people that just can't wait for the event, that they've logged on. They've got a wish list. The services got a wish list that they're going to be sharing with the city, and the city residents. And, they're going to be doing a fundraiser. They're going to give people opportunity to fill out that wish list. And they're going to have a lot of fun. I believe in the details are, I haven't seen the exact details, but what the plan is, I think on the 5th, that Friday, a band, Saturday, a DJ, raffle tickets going on throughout the entire weekend, and then cleaning it up on Sunday. So if you haven't been, I know we probably got to be careful how many of us show up at the Chamber get together, but this would be an opportunity to really find out, what's going on, because the meeting's going to be there at the Getaway. And I know the owners are going to do a presentation. I believe Lauren Steiger from services are going to be there. Danielle, I think, is going to be there. So it's going to be a lot of support, for this event, for our residents and for those and for the services. So just to keep that in mind, put that on your calendar. The 5th, 6th, excuse me, the 5th, 6th, and 7th of December. Mm-hmm. And and I'm also bringing this up because we didn't bring Kat and them forward for the proclamation. The event hasn't happened, but I would be remiss if I didn't give them their accolades right now today because of the efforts that they're doing for this month in the planning. And so I'm glad they were able to get themselves scheduled for the Chamber meetings as part of this month of domestic violence awareness. And that's why it's being held at the Getaway, because they're going to continue this thing. It's not going to be just a month. It's going to be, something else happening. So I just wanted to get that out there. So I think it's going to be a very important event for the community, for the service center, and for everyone who's victims of domestic violence. And I think the city is going to show itself well in December. I'm looking forward to it.
If we can donate things or what they're doing with the auction. You said it's not all there, but I really.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to really happen probably Tuesday. They're going to give people opportunity to, kind of figure out what do they want to do for, for auctions, for the raffles, and how they can support, from a business standpoint,
All right. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like we should give you more. I'm wrestling with Councilmember Sonmore's point that maybe you all don't know what we've been doing, just Councilmember Murray and I. So we will give you some high levels of what we talk with the consultant about for the review. There will be individual interviews this time. So she'll be reaching out to get on your respective calendar to talk to you privately, individually, if you will, so you have your say. From that, and it would be all laid out in her email, but that's probably enough to start there, because that's different than I think we did last year. We didn't have an interview at all. I think we just collectively did this instrument, and then we had the exec session, and that's when we were talking to each other. And we didn't want that again this year. If I'm speaking wrong, do correct me, but she'll lay all that out in the email. But I do want to give you that heads up that will be a change to the process so that everyone will have a chance to talk to that person. But you will also get an instrument to fill out like we did in the past. So apologies for not giving
Well-
insights into what it looks like.
Thank you for saying that, because I thought the city manager said at the last meeting she would be calling us this week, so I emailed him today and I said,
Oh, yeah,
I haven't been
that's-
contacted because I thought I was left out of the loop.
No, so thank you. Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, no, so long story short, getting everybody's calendars and working through emails and phone calls. We do have a contract with her. Councilmember Murray and I met with her 2 days ago. I'm so lost in the timeline. It was this week that we met because she wanted to know what we were looking for. We pitched all of that. She gave us, here's what I heard today, and she did that this morning, hoping we would see it. But I'm like, you do know we work. So it's one of those, we saw it when we saw it. So it's one of those two where, no, it was, we hoped to do that, but we couldn't get back together, and now we're back together. And now as soon as she gets us signing off on it, she's ready to talk to you all, which is as early as this morning if we would have saw it, but tomorrow is the hope if we sign off on it tonight.
Okay, so I thought that last year, I did speak to whoever it was, but all the years kind of, yeah, they do. And I want to thank Councilmember Woodard for reminding me about the drain, about the drain, because I saw the other day as I was leaving that I do 2 drains. One drain is completely packed with leaves, and my other drain is completely empty. So anyways, I need to get out there and start scooping it up. Which, and then now we have a new person asking us for our hours. So it's a lot of fun. If you have any drains near you, please, put that on your list, and whoever it is now that takes care of it, is it Roger?
Or Ethan, no?
Ethan.
Oh, is it? I'm not sure it's Roger.
Okay, Patrick. Do you adopt the drain too? Yes. It's whoever sends me the email that I just respond back to it. But I do. And it's very easy, you guys, because as I'm driving out of my driveway, I look at both drains. And then if it's got debris in it, I just put a mental, thing to come back and take care of that drain. All right. Anyone else before we adjourn? All right. We are adjourned. Thank you.